Hi, it's Rosie here from Labyrinth of Nurture, and today I'm looking at whether squats should form is the main exercise you need to look into to rehabilitate your pelvic floor. So often we see that squatting is people saying Kegels aren't the best exercise to be doing to rehabilitate your pelvic floor, but squatting is. And I just wanted to come and say that a squat is not always a squat. Is not always a squat. There are lots of different ways to squat, and some of them are more pelvic floor friendly and are rehabilitating the pelvic floor, and other times you will just be causing more pressure on your pelvic floor and exacerbating any issues you have right now. We squat more often than we realize. Even though we don't come down and go into a deep squat to do things every day, which is kind of what we think of when we squat, we do use a squat. We do the motions of a squat every time you sit down or you stand up, from whether that's onto the floor or onto a chair or even a sofa. And so if you are getting down and getting up in a way that's putting pressure every time on your pelvic floor, you can see that you're going to, no matter what you're doing, you're still going to be putting that pressure on regularly, and it's not going to give your pelvic floor a chance to regain its natural strength and function. So what do you need to do? You need to be mindful of how you squat. You need to think about what muscles and joint mobility you need when you squat, and you need to be working on increasing that strength, releasing any tension, and increasing your mobility in order for you to squat better, to get up and down out of your chair better. And then you can gradually bring the squat down into part of an exercise program if that's what you wish to do, or coming down and down and back up off the floor. So what makes a good squat? What do you need? I was hard to say what makes a good squat, or what are the things that you're looking out for. They're the opposite things. So the first thing is, when you come down into a squat, you need to look at what your feet are doing. Your feet are always a good basis to show you where you've got tension further up in your body. So if your feet turn out, it's showing tension in your hips. If you've got the most of the weight on your toes, and you find you can't put your heels on the ground, it's showing that you need more ankle mobility, and also you need to be lengthening your calf muscles. If you're finding that when you come down, imagine if you are sitting down on a chair and you get to a certain point, so if I don't fall off the chair, you get to a certain point and you just kind of collapse, and you're not using the strength in your glutes and your hams to lower yourself gently into the chair, then you can see that you need to build up muscles there. And you also need to look at what your knees are doing. You know, if your knees wing out or come in, it's showing tension and lack of strength in your hips, possibly some inward or external rotation of the hips, which in turn is going to cause issues on your pelvic floor. So you can see you can use a squat and how you're getting up and down off a chair as to assess the issues you have, and you need to work on. And as you work on those, and that's looking down at stretching out the calves, strengthening the glute muscles, increasing mobility in your ankles, knees, and hips. And you can do a lot of the working on the mobility, laying on your back or on all fours, coming into a squat position, but without loading the joints and the muscles with your body weight. So there's lots of ways to practice squatting. So your pelvic floor rehabilitation is also kind of a squat preparation course. They're kind of one and the same thing. But obviously, because we get up and down off chairs loads, it's something really important to think about. One of the key things to think about when you're coming into a squat is leading with your bum. You don't want to kind of round your back and tuck your pelvis under as you come into the squat. Instead, take your bum out behind you into the sitting position. You want to keep your knees over your ankles, so you're not putting stress on your knees. So often people talk about squatting being so bad for your knees, which it is if the weight is all the way down over the top of your knees. Yes, that hurts. Keeping your knees over your ankles and not allowing them to go forwards means that you are protecting your knees and therefore your pelvic floor as you squat down. So that's one of the first exercises we use in our pelvic floor classes, is learning about how to sit and stand better, so you can feel better and create that foundation and that environment, if you like, for your pelvic floor to heal. So the answer to the question is the same as, are Kegels a good exercise for your pelvic floor strength? Yes and no, and it depends on what you bring with you to your pelvic floor rehab, really, and why these broad, blanket statements of you must do your Kegels or squats are better are just not very helpful. It's really digging down into the minutiae and your form and your alignment and your own strengths and weaknesses and tightnesses and mobility issues are needed to take into consideration as well. So I hope that helps. Yes, what you're looking for, just go over that briefly. What you're looking for is good ankle mobility, being able to keep the weight in your heels. So to do that, you need to release tension in your quads, and you need to build strength and length in your calves, your hamstrings, and your glutes. And you need to think about hinging from the hips and taking your bum back behind you. All things to make a good squat and a good get up and sit down and get up off a chair. So I hope that helps. Yes, I've got my pelvic floor classes now online, so if you want to have a look at what that covers, which is this kind of thing, then I'll put the link in the description. And as usual, if there's any questions, any comments, do pop them below. All right, do take care. Bye bye.